This one is going to be a little more personal than my usual videos, because I got to thinking about this while I was working on my last one, which was about the good memories associated with nostalgia and kind of the video games that I grew up with. And while I was working on that, I got to thinking about the flip side, which is bad memories associated with gaming. Now, I'm very lucky to have had a pretty good run with video games growing up. Like, I don't think I really have any bad memories associated with any of the games that I played when I was young. But I do have a couple of bad memories attached to more recent gaming experiences. And I have two specific instances that I wanted to talk about, both of which were happening or happened during a not insignificant situation in time, because they both happened during quarantine, so around 2020, 2021. And it was during my previous relationship and kind of everything that goes along with that. And the first game that I started thinking about was Horizon Zero Dawn, which I played for the first time, I think mid-2020. And I remember vividly when this bad memory sort of attached itself to the game. And it was when I first arrived at Meridian. And you know how there's like a lot of people to talk to at that point in the game, because I just remember like running around trying to hunt down people. And it was around the time that I was playing that portion of the game that we had gotten into an argument, quote unquote. And it's in quotation marks because it wasn't really a lot of arguing. It was mostly just frustrations and little things that kind of built up over the months. And it had built up to the point where something just tipped us over the edge. And we didn't talk for like 3 days. And I think it's a combination of just everything happening all at once, right? Because we were stuck at home. We were living together for the first time. I was living with someone else for the first time, so I really had to get used to not just thinking about myself and having to work around and accommodate for the other person. And it was during a really scary time, like a scary, uncertain time. So I think all of that just added to the stress. And at that point, any little thing can set us off. And so we didn't talk for 3 days because of something stupid. And while that was happening, I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn, and I just was in a bad mood those 3 days. Like, I was playing it just to try to finish it. And I wasn't really doing any side quests. I was literally just trying to get through the main story, because my mind was still preoccupied with what had happened and kind of the awkwardness and the frustration of everything that was going on around me. And so I didn't really appreciate it while I was playing that particular part of the game. And the thing that sucks is all of the hours that I played before then, which I actually did really enjoy. I had a lot of fun with the combat system, and I love the machine designs, but everything up to that point was kind of overshadowed by that singular bad instance. And it just soured the rest of the experience. And it feels bad because, you know, it's something that I was looking forward to playing. And now there's kind of like, I don't know what you would call the opposite of rose-tinted glasses, but now there's like a film over it that I can't really wipe off. And when I think about it, I always inadvertently think about that time, and then it brings back those memories, and it just becomes like this whole cycle. And so my first experience with Horizon Zero Dawn was not a good one, and it's a pretty big gaming regret. The second instance was unfortunately when I was playing Dark Souls 1 for the first time. So basically, after those 3 days, we resolved it, again, quote unquote. I don't really think that we solved anything. I think we just swept it under the rug, just to maintain some kind of normalcy. But yeah, we resolved it, and things went on business as usual. And I was able to kind of go back to my routine of playing games and having fun with them. And 2021, I played Dark Souls 3 for the first time, and I loved it. I loved it so much that I wanted to replay the whole series from the very beginning. So I was like, okay, let's start from Dark Souls 1. And so I played it, had so much fun seeing the beginnings of it, especially that opening cinematic, which I still think is the best cinematic opening of the Soulsborne games. And I was really getting into it. Like, I even farmed Baldur's side swords because I had so much fun parrying the enemies that dropped them. And then I made it to Anor Londo, and this is where everything kind of went downhill. It was around the end of 2021, and at this point, like, things have started to open up. Everyone was still wearing masks, but we were able to go outside without any sort of strings attached. And so it was feeling like the world itself was getting back to normal, and we haven't had a real big fight since that first one. And so I was just playing through Anor Londo and trying to get past the archers, and then one night, I think it was after dinner, and I think we literally just finished eating. And basically, he told me something that you never want to hear from your significant other, let's just say. Like, the worst news you can possibly receive. And I'm not going to go any further than that. And all of a sudden, the last year and a half was just over, just like that. And it was a lot to deal with, that first night especially, because at that point, my life kind of turned upside down in a second. And so I had all of these thoughts running in my head about mostly planning about what I need to do. Because obviously, I'm not going to stay because the relationship is over, right? And looking back on it, I think I needed to give myself a little bit of time to grieve, because after the words were exchanged, my brain went into hyper mode, where I started immediately looking for a new place to live and started to figure out logistics that were associated with that. In the meantime, while I was doing that, I still had to try and live my life, right? But now there's like this dark cloud hanging over me with everything that I did. But in spite of that, I had to go about my life as normal as I could, because I still had to go to work. I still had to take care of the cat and things around the house while the transition was happening. And so I would try to continue playing Dark Souls 1, and I just wasn't in it anymore. It was the same thing that happened with Horizon Zero Dawn, where I was just playing it just to finish it. But I wasn't really engaging with the game as much as I was when I first started. And I couldn't really tell you how I felt about the bosses after Gwendolyn. Couldn't tell you any areas after that. It was all just kind of a blur at that point. And now whenever I think about Dark Souls 1, I can't just think about the game for what it is, because there's always going to be that association. And it sucks. It sucks because it was a really good game and I was having a lot of fun with it. But now I can't scrub that memory off. It's always going to be there, especially when I see the words Anor Londo, which is like one of the best areas in the game, right? Objectively. And that's really disappointing and disheartening. Why am I saying all of this anyway, other than to trauma dump? Well, I thought I could treat it like I would treat a game at face value, which is overwriting a save file in a sense. And so, in my mind, maybe if I replayed these games a few years down the line, would I be able to overwrite those feelings if I try and have new experiences with this new playthrough? I thought it was a foolproof plan, but I really underestimated the strength of a bad memory, because I played Horizon Zero Dawn last year again, and played it through and had so much fun with it. I had so much fun that I didn't even realize that I was doing the DLC already when I got to where the Frost Bears are. Because I was just going through the game and doing all the side quests, and something popped up and I was like, ooh, let's go there and let's see whatever is going on over there. And then I also replayed Dark Souls 1, but on stream, I kind of fell off because I probably got busy or another game started taking... Oh, you know what? It was when I was playing Stellar Blade at the same time, and I really got into Stellar Blade, so I stopped playing Dark Souls 1. But for all the new fun that I was having a few years later, with kind of fresh eyes, but not really, at this point, I don't think if it is possible to overwrite the bad memories like a save file. Like, I don't think it's going to be that simple. I can replay them and form new memories in that way, but I think it's more like I'm putting a patch over it instead of removing it from the equation altogether. I can still see those times playing in the back of my head whenever I see these games. And I don't think it's something that's ever going to 100% go away. And at this point, I think I just have to be okay with it. But with all of that, I think I did manage to overwrite something after all. And it's my outlook on relationships and things that I would do different. And the most important thing that I've learned that I have since applied is communication. They weren't kidding when they said communication is key, because a lot of fights and frustrations are manifested from not talking about them. Even if it's small things, if they build up enough and kind of left to fester, it's going to be a bigger thing than if you were to have cut them off at the pass way before that happened. You know, now we have one major rule in the household, and that is to never go to bed upset or angry. Like whatever it is, we have to talk about it, no matter what it takes and no matter how long it takes. And I've been married for almost 4 years now, so I can tell when my husband is upset. And I think spending that hour, 2 hours maybe, depending on how serious the issue is, to talk about it, it's going to make it so worth it in the long run, because it doesn't blow up into something way bigger than what it started out as. It doesn't mean that we never fight anymore. It's just that when we do, we make it so that there's really no resentment that can build up from unresolved issues. And so I go back to this idea of overwriting a save file in a metaphysical sense. Is that the right term? And my hope is that enough time will have passed where I wouldn't think about these bad memories anymore when I'm thinking about these games. And if it turns out that I can't, then there's really nothing else I can do at this point other than to move forward. I guess in a way, a bad experience is still an experience. Like, maybe something that I need to realize is that overwriting them is not what I'm supposed to do, at least overwriting them completely, or even pretending they never happened in the first place. You know, we live and we learn, and I guess those experiences help shape the person that I am today, and really changed my outlook on life as a whole. And you know, as they say, everything happens for a reason, so maybe these experiences were the reason why I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now.